Assalamu alaikum dear students, and welcome to the 19th session of the KIPS Distance Learning Program Current Affairs Newspaper Roundup session. I am your host Shahrukh Haider, and the topic for today's lecture is going to be: should the lockdowns that are imposed around countries all over the world, should they be eased in the better interest of the economy, or should they not be eased in the better interest of public health? That is a very important question that many governments around the world are facing right now. And a lot of governments are finding it very challenging to make a balance between the two. So let's look at how different governments are coping with it. Now, beginning with Pakistan. Pakistan has been in the throes of coronavirus for some time, and in recent days, the number of cases of coronavirus in our country has dramatically increased. And many experts predict that by the end of May, we will have more than 100,000 cases. And that is, they predict, even if we keep the lockdown up. But the government is desperate to open up economies, to open up businesses, to open the lockdown so that people can conduct economic activity, commerce can happen, trade can happen, and people can get back to their lives to earn for themselves and to feed their families and to keep alive. As your Prime Minister has famously said many times over, that if the coronavirus does not kill the Pakistani citizens, hunger will. And there is some credibility to what he's saying, because Pakistan has one of the highest poverty percentage in Pakistan. Nearly 40% of our population lives in multi-dimensional poverty, and this lockdown has only exacerbated that condition. Many people who were living above poverty line before the global pandemic and the ensuing lockdown have now fallen below the poverty line. So let's take now the second case of the United States of America. So the United States of America has the highest number of coronavirus cases in the world, more than 1.2 million. And it has had the highest number of deaths as well, exceeding 70,000. And experts predict that in the coming days and months, the number of cases in the United States might exceed 5 million, and the number of deaths might be more than 500,000. Now, that is a very scary scenario for the United States. Yet, Donald Trump has time and again insisted upon opening up the economies, upon easing the lockdowns, upon ensuring that people can go back to their economic lives because they cannot sustain themselves. Now let's take the third example of European countries. European countries were at the forefront of the coronavirus fight because they were the countries that were worst impacted and the earliest impacted countries among the cohort of nations. And the explosion of coronavirus cases in European countries such as Italy and Spain and Britain was explosive, and the number of deaths also comparatively higher than the other parts of the world, for example in South Asia or in Central Asia. However, they imposed very, very strict lockdown in their countries, completely halting any sort of movement, let alone economic activities in their countries, which resulted in a complete economic shutdown. And the economic impacts and the damning impacts of those lockdowns and complete stop in their movement was dramatic. But now, as to an extent, the virus is peaking in their countries, and a sort of flattening the curve situation is going to happen in the coming days in Europe. Many countries in Europe are considering opening up their economies, easing the lockdown situations, and making sure that people can go back to their economic lives. However, in all three cases, Pakistan, United States, and Europe, complete lifting of lockdown and curfew is not being discussed. There is always the idea of partial lockdown. There is always the idea of a smart lockdown, with some economies, with some businesses opening, with some sectors of the economy going back into full swing, while many other, especially including, for example, the education sector, remaining closed. No one really knows when all of the sectors of economies around the world will open. When will educational institutes be open? When will the students be able to contact their teachers and go back to their classes and learn what they should be learning at this time to make their futures? So the students around the world are perhaps in a lot of anxiety and stress at this point in time, and they don't really know how to move forward from this. Well, we suggest that you move on towards digital technologies, towards having personal relationships with your student groups, and towards utilizing this time to the maximum of your abilities and making positive contributions in your preparation through various means possible. Right. So let's look at why there's increasing pressure upon governments around the world to reopen economies and ease lockdowns. Well, quite frankly, I believe that there's a lot of pressure groups around the world in countries that are putting a lot of pressure upon the governments due to their financial greed, because the worst impacted businesses around the world are owned by very rich people, and very rich people are losing money very fast. Although in terms of real wealth, it wouldn't really matter to them. But since human greed does not know any limits, financial greed can go unfettered for as long as possible. These people want to get back into business and keep on making the troves of wealth that they were on the backs of working class people. The worst affected naturally are the working class people and the lower classes, as they are in every crisis around the world. So what are the economic impacts, especially vis-a-vis employment around the world, and how the coronavirus is creating unemployment around the world? So the World International Labour Organization and World Health Organization have predicted that nearly 25 million jobs have already been laid off around the world, and 25 million people that were originally employed are now jobless. And moreover, this is just the statistics of accounted for jobs that were part of the formal sector. When we talk about unaccounted for and informal employment, I believe that the number and the rate of unemployment might be as high as 100 million jobs lost over the last 3 months due to global lockdowns and stop in economic activity. And if this keeps on going, the number of jobs lost on average on a day will increase to 1 million jobs daily. And this, by the way, is higher even than the unemployment rate during the Great Depression of the 1930s. That was the most damning and severe economic shock and loss that the world experienced in the 20th century. Many experts are pointing to the idea that the global corona pandemic has created a situation which is even worse economically and financially for the world than the Great Depression of the 1930s was. So now, let's compare the 2020 coronavirus pandemic to the 1918 Spanish flu. I would like to read an extract from today's newspaper regarding this scenario. So let's look at what the newspaper has to say, and this is very interesting. So the title reads, "Virus afflicted 2020 looks like 1918 despite march of science." What that means is that despite a century's progress in medicine, in healthcare, in antiviral drugs, 2019 to a large extent, and our response to the global pandemic is similar to humanity's response to the 1918 pandemic of Spanish flu. So the extract reads, "As in 1918, people are again hearing hollow assurances at odds with the reality of hospitals and morgues filling up and bank accounts drowning. The ancient common sense of quarantining is back. So is quackery." Quackery means false healthcare, false medical science. "Rub raw onions on your chest," they said in 1918. "How about disinfectant in your body, in your veins now?" mused the President Donald Trump, drawing gasps instead of laughs over what he weakly tried to pass off as a joke. So Donald Trump thinks that you should pump disinfectants and bleach into your body through your veins, and that will help you fight the global pandemic. How stupendous. Moreover, modern science, now they're talking about what kind of differences have we seen in our response to the global pandemic now compared to 1918. Modern science quickly identified today's new coronavirus, mapped its genetic code, and developed a diagnostic test tapping knowledge no one had in 1918. That has given people more of a fighting chance than to stay out of harm's way, at least in countries that developed tests quickly, which the United States did not do. Moreover, the kind of advice that the medical community is giving to the people at large, to the populations around the country, is quite similar to the kind of advice that medical professionals were giving to people during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. So what are they saying? Medical advice from then also resonates today. If you get it, which means if you get the coronavirus, stay at home, rest in bed, keep warm, drink hot drinks, and stay quiet until the symptoms are past, said Dr. John Dill Robertson, Chicago Health Commissioner in 1918. This is not modern, announcement by a doctor. This was 1918. Then continue to be careful, for the greatest danger is from pneumonia or some kindred disease after the influenza is gone, which is quite similar to how the virus, the coronavirus, is operating in the human body right now. It has the same kind of trajectory that the Spanish flu had in the 1980s, and the difference is that Spanish flu attacked young people more than anybody else, whereas the coronavirus is attacking weaker people, older people, than it is healthy individuals with healthy and functional, antibodies and self-defense mechanisms. So I'm also going to read an extract of what kind of politics are happening in the United States regarding United States government's response to the COVID-19. So the Speaker of Congress, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, some of you might know her, she's a very vocal critic of Donald Trump and his government, accused the White House on Tuesday of being afraid of the truth, as an international and internal Trump administration report warned that coronavirus infections in the United States could go up to 200,000, 2 lakh new infections daily by mid-June. That is what the experts are predicting the United States might have to face in the coming days. Moreover, the global deaths, number of deaths has exceeded 200,000. And I believe these are the direct deaths that have been caused by the global pandemic, whereas if we look at the indirect deaths that the pandemic has caused because of lack of availability of hospitals which are overrun by COVID-19 patients, and lack of care, lack of doctors, lack of intensive care, lack of ventilators for other diseases, I think more than 100,000 people have died, and that is also a direct consequence of the COVID-19. So I believe that these deaths should also be added to the toll of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, similar to the 1918, when the United States and Western Europe was engaged in a raging struggle for the World War I and for the control of Europe and for the control of the soul of Europe, false news and a battle for narratives was raging at that time, just as it is right now. There's an entire trove of false news making the rounds in social media, including from very credible leaders and international movements. For example, Donald Trump has been spewing false news and wrong propaganda on his campaign trails, on his public addresses, on his Twitter feeds, for example, ever since the coronavirus has started, to the extent that he has displayed classical traits of a populist who would do anything to gain trust and to appeal to his base. So his base constitutes, which made him president by voting for him, constitutes of white supremacist white Americans who, to be quite frank, are quite stupid and would believe any false news and lies that Trump has been telling them for quite some time, that would appeal to their own images of being a white supremacist and better than the rest of humanity. Now there's another angle to the global pandemic, as it was during the 1918 Spanish flu. Then the problem was that there was a World War I going, and countries could not devote a lot of attention to the Spanish flu, the spread of Spanish flu, which killed 50 million people in a span of 3 to 4 years. Now there is the classical struggle for power and global dominance between the United States and China, further extending into the response towards COVID-19 as well. So this is a classical demonstration of the Thucydides trap, So you must understand Thucydides was a Greek historian and philosopher who lived nearly 2300 years ago. He wrote a very comprehensive account of the wars that were raging at that time between Athens and Sparta. His book is known by the Peloponnesian Wars, and in that book he explains that Athens was an established power, whereas Sparta was a rising power, and the established power is always threatened by a rising power, which is why the probability of a conflict emerging between two great powers is almost 100%. So that it is what it means by Thucydides' trap. So China is the rising power, United States is the established power, and United States is continuously threatened by the economic and the military rise of China, and sees its own global dominance being eroded by increasing economic and soft power diplomacy of the Chinese and some aggressive activities in the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. So the spillover of US-China spate into the global coronavirus response has culminated into accusations, mutual accusations. So for example, Donald Trump has accused that China developed the coronavirus in a Wuhan laboratory and then spread it to the rest of the world, whereas China has accused the United States of exporting the coronavirus into China underneath the boots of the US soldiers that were visiting China at that time for some training activities. Now, the United States have threatened to retaliate by, for example, by saying that United States will not pay any outstanding loans that the United States owes to China, which is more than $1 trillion. Moreover, Trump has also threatened more tariffs on Chinese exports to the United States, which is quite frankly a classical populist agenda where Trump is trying to externalize all the blame for United States' absolute failure to cope with this global pandemic. United States has been the worst impacted country in the world from the pandemic, despite being the richest country in the world ever, having a very comprehensive and a very affluent healthcare system, and having a wide government machinery which could cope to any challenge, but clearly it failed to cope to a challenge that has already claimed more than 72,000 American lives. So the central question that I spoke about in the beginning, should the lockdowns be lifted or not? Well, after the world realized that a global pandemic had enveloped the world in 1918, many countries around the world imposed a similar lockdown and quarantine measures. And they were to a large extent effective in a number of cases. So when the governments and the people realized that our lockdown and quarantine measures are successful, so let's remove them now because we do not need them now because the virus has been stopped from spreading further. Do you know what happened? A second wave of Spanish flu came due to the easing in lockdowns and quarantines and people completely throwing caution to the wind and not exercising social distancing. In the second wave of the Spanish flu, 10 million people were killed, whereas in the first wave only 1 million people were killed. So if we lift the lockdowns right now, we do not know what kinds of horror might await us. The casualties of the coronavirus might go up tenfolds. Already we have seen that the mortality rate of the coronavirus has increased from 2.1% to 7.2% today. And we don't know whether that is going to be stabilized there or it's going to keep increasing. So the situation is very damning and it calls for common sense. And common sense says, do not lift the lockdowns, keep them in place or people are going to die. With that, I'm sorry to be a harbinger of bad news, but it is as it is. I hope that you practice social distancing, you keep in your homes, and you make sure that you utilize this time to prepare well for the CSS, which is coming soon. As far as for all the candidates who will be appearing in the CSS other than Punjab domicile, there is good news for you. There is an additional CSS exam that is going to be conducted in November 2020, and we are more than willing to help you ace it. It is only available to the students from Sindh, Balochistan, KP and Gilgit-Baltistan. With that, thank you very much. All the best to you.